Massive interest in the John George murder. John George, 37, he flew out to Spain for a holiday and last contacted loved ones on the 14th of December last year, and 24 days later his body was found on the 7th of January. Investigations and judicial processes are taking place in Spain, which are very, very different to the traditions that we use in this jurisdiction. Jonny Smyth was arrested and extradited in Spain from Portugal in March. He and Michelle Malley remain in police custody. Malley was arrested and appeared in court in connection with the crime in January. What's the latest twist in this?
So just to correct you, Malley is on bail in Spain. He has been on bail for quite some time. Jonny Smyth is remanded in custody, and that's because he went on the run. And then he was arrested in Portugal on foot of a European arrest warrant in March, I believe it was. And he has remained on remand ever since. And as you said, Spanish law works very different. I've been doing crime reporting a long time. I can tell you exactly how a murder investigation works. Spanish law is very different. What happens is it's a judge-led investigation. So every time there's an update, there'll be a court hearing. In June, Malley had to appear before the judge because phones were found during searches of his property. He is cooperating with the prosecution, so he was brought in front of the judge to give over the passcodes to those phones. He agreed to do that. That was done in front of the judge. At that stage, I think Jonny Smyth's defence lawyer tried to take that opportunity to ask him some questions. Malley refused to answer those questions, and on it goes. What happens in Spain is the judge, you will not appear and be charged with a crime until very shortly before the trial starts, sometimes on the day of the trial, but sometimes just a few days, a week before. And so that is what's happening here. So no inference should be taken from the fact that neither of these men have been charged, because the Spanish police have been really clear in saying we're not seeking any other suspects in relation to this. These are the only two people we believe were involved, and this is where our investigation has taken us. They've actually said that their part of the investigation has already stopped. It's now the judge just asking further questions before he gets to the point of charging him. So that's where we are with that. Madison Allen has played, I suppose, the sort of public cheerleader role for Jonny Smyth since this started. She's very active on social media. She is an Onlyfans content creator. Her and Jonny Smyth would have created Onlyfans content together before he was arrested. She is very active on Instagram, very active on TikTok, has sort of a fairly significant following on both of those platforms.
What would the nature of the OnlyFans content they created together have been?
It was pornography. It was quite hardcore pornography as well.
Okay. They also tied the knot while he was on the run.
Yes, which was very strange because there was a European arrest warrant for Jonny Smyth. There was an international arrest warrant too, because for a while there were rumours that he had made it to Thailand. He never did. He only ever went as far as Portugal. And you would have imagined that if you went to Gibraltar and you handed over your identification in order to be married, and that's a legal civil ceremony, that a red flag somewhere would have been set off that would have alerted the authorities that Jonny Smyth had crossed over the border and was in Gibraltar. That never happened. And their marriage only came out after she posted pictures of their wedding rings and other things on social media. Then when she was asked about it, she said, yeah, we're married, whatever. There was rumours that she was saying that, you know, that they'd got married in a hurry because she wouldn't have been able to be forced to give evidence against him. That's not true. That's not how it works in Spain. But what it did do is, if she is considered his wife, she was allowed to have conjugal visits with him while he was in prison in Spain, which we don't have here. But if you're someone's wife, you are entitled to apply for that.
So you have to be married to get the conjugal visits, which is some private time together. Let's put it like this.
In a private visitor place rather than in, you know, a giant visitor room with other people around you.
And just to be clear,
I'm not going to go into details. I'm sure we're all adult enough to know what that means.
Well, there's a lot of adult themes here. And just to be clear, because some people might listen and say, what? Because that would change the nature of being in prison for many people. This doesn't happen in McGilligan.
Most certainly not. Well, no, I mean, anytime it does, somebody gets the sack from their job. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't happen by law where it does in Spain.
Okay. Now, Madison, who married 27-year-old Newtownabbey man Smyth, as we said, was held, we now understand, after police discovered nearly 1 kilo of crystal meth and 30 gram of cannabis resin in the car she was driving during an early hours traffic stop.
Yeah, I was told, and a few other journalists as well were told about this a while ago. there was rumours doing that Madison Allen had been arrested in connection with drugs charges, and at the time her social media went unusually quiet. So it was clear she was somewhere, because she constantly she lives her life on social media, and it went quiet for around 10 or 11 days. There is a freelance journalist called Jared Cousins, who works in Spain, who is much more au fait with the workings of Spanish law than I am, and who journalists such as myself would consult with in relation to this case. He asked just advice on what way things are going. And I had spoken to him about it, and he says, well, look, I'm asking all my contacts, but so far I can't get to the bottom of it. But he then eventually did. And earlier this week, then Jared Cousins broke the story that Madison Smyth had in fact been arrested. She was travelling on the N332 near Torrevieja. She was stopped. She had a British female friend who is unnamed in any of these court copies with her. Madison was driving the car. It was her Audi A5, and there was a significant amount of drugs found in it. Probably the thing that most people would gasp at is the kilo of crystal meth, which is not a drug that is actually quite common here in Ireland or Northern Ireland, where there is problems in terms of the use of, and you've done podcasts on that before, in terms of cocaine and all sorts of other drugs. But crystal meth is something that is grown, I suppose, in popularity in some parts of Europe. So she was stopped with that, and she was taken into custody. Her car has been impounded by the Spanish police, and she was in custody for around 10 days until her defence lawyers were able to argue with the judge that she should be given bail, albeit she had to hand over a €20,000 bond to secure that bail. So the way that would work is that money would be held by the authorities in Spain. Should she disappear, she'll not get that money back. Should she appear in court, when she's asked to again, and eventually this case is over, she should, or whoever it is helped her pay that money, will get that money back. But yes, she's now on bail. And as I said before, in relation to the murder charge, you don't get charged straight away in Spain. The judge has an investigation, and then you're charged shortly before you appear in court.
So that's very different from our situation where a case becomes live when people are...
Had you been caught in a car with a kilo of crystal meth here, what more likely would have happened is you would have been charged to court by the police. So you'd been held for a day or two. You'd have appeared in court. Then the judge would decide whether you get remanded or bailed. And then you're on bail or on remand while the investigation takes place. But you're already charged. In Spain, that's not what happens. The investigation takes place and then you get charged. So that's where she is now. She did, according to Jared Cousins, has very good sources in Spain in terms of police and prosecutors and all sorts of other people. They said that her defence was that a mystery man who she did not name with a gun had approached her and threatened to harm her family, forcing her to take a bag, which she was later given and told to take to Torrevieja. And that's what she has told the Spanish police.
Yeah, so there's little debate. She's not disputing that the gear was in the motor. She's just saying she was threatened into it. That's what we understand, that her line of defence is in this, and that investigation is ongoing, as you say, by a judge in Torrevieja over this drug seizure.
I like your pronunciation.
Well, I've been practicing.
I'm just going with the pure anti-town Torrevieja, but anyway.
I've been practicing, and I'm probably wrong, but we'll soon find out. And, this was a closely guarded secret. She was released from prison on the 19th of September, 10 days after being incarcerated, and 4 days after her defence lawyers persuaded a judge to free her on payment of a bail bond. Now, part of the reason why the John George story has been so big, aside from the fact that his family have been very vocal and very active on the murder, and aside from the fact that it's a massive tragedy, Madison Allen's profile and frankly profession has elevated this.
I think it was all of the people involved. So I was, if you cast your mind back, sent over to Spain while John George was still missing, and at that stage it was still a missing person. The family had been really vocal on social media, but they were starting to get really concerned that something else had happened. I arrived in Spain, and the day I arrived, the apartment where Jonny Smyth and Madison Allen had been staying became a crime scene. Police arrived while I was there. They put blue tape around it. they started carrying out they brought out forensic exhibits. Men in paper suits arrived, and there were 2 other individuals who they had left behind. So Jonny Smyth and Madison had legged it. They had went on the run, but they'd left behind 2 fellas, one who were both from here as well. One of them, Dan McMahon, has been in the headlines constantly as well. He was stabbed in Spain not long ago. He was also in court for robbery in Spain. There's just an ongoing chaos surrounds his life. He, at that time, a lot of this was, I suppose, unknown to me, and I don't like to think that I'm naive, and I like to think that I'm pretty wise to the ways of the world. But I didn't realise that this whole world, this underworld, I suppose, existed. When you look at their social media was very different from their lives. So their social media is very flash, and it's, glamorous locations and villas and champagne and, Madison and skimpy bikinis and Jonny Smyth and all the tattoos. And outside the flat, there was jet skis and motorbikes and all swimming pools, the whole lot.